We've reached a point where any employee can hit a button and instantly receive a beautiful, perfectly formatted slide deck. It looks professional, it has the right fonts. But the moment you actually read the bullet points, the logic falls apart. Generating text, writing boilerplate code, or formatting a presentation costs exactly $0 and takes almost zero effort. Because anyone can do it instantly, the sheer act of producing content has lost its market value. What you get from these language models out of the box is usually about 80% of the way to a final product. It covers the basics, but it completely misses the specific, hard-won insights that actually make your business unique. That missing 20% is where your value lives. In a market flooded with free generation, this specific layer of proprietary judgment is what separates a high-value deliverable from a commodity that any competitor can replicate for pennies. Imagine a highly paid senior strategist reviewing one of these AI-generated reports. They immediately spot a fatal flaw in the math. The model has conflated a debt-service coverage ratio, a metric tracking cash flow, with a minimum net worth requirement, which tracks total assets. Those trigger entirely different default conditions in a commercial loan. The strategist does what they've always done. They hop into a Slack channel and carefully type out a detailed explanation to a junior associate on how to fix the logic. But the exact second that strategist hits send, that institutional knowledge vanishes into a chat thread graveyard. That correction wasn't fed back into the system. The language model learns nothing. When a different associate prompts it tomorrow, the AI will make the same mistake. If your team is quietly fixing AI errors in private messages, you aren't building a technological moat. You are operating a leaky bucket, bleeding your most expensive human intelligence every single day. When people talk about taste in tech, they usually mean aesthetics. They think it's about picking a cool soundtrack for a website, or deciding between a dark mode sci-fi gradient and a minimalist design. Real taste in the AI era is the ability to look at an output, identify flawed business logic, and enforce strict operational constraints. It's the senior editor rejecting a draft because the core thesis is buried in paragraph 4, demanding the writer lead with a provocation instead. Being able to articulate exactly why a machine's output fails your specific standards converts your professional intuition into a repeatable instruction the machine can finally follow. Your employees' taste is a highly scalable corporate asset, but only if you systematically capture their rejections instead of letting them evaporate. Long before generative models existed, the most powerful tech monopolies were built on this exact principle: institutionalizing human judgment. Epic Systems conquered the massive, complex healthcare market by spending decades shadowing doctors on the hospital floor. They observed localized clinical workflows and hard-coded those specific human constraints directly into their platform, turning doctors' judgment into software architecture. Bloomberg secured its terminal dominance by anchoring raw financial data to the exact parameters defined by working traders. They organized a mountain of noise around the strict, expert-defined logic required to make a high-stakes trade. These companies won by converting human oversight into a structural barrier that competitors couldn't bypass with better hardware. What generative AI changes is the speed of this process. It compresses the time frame for encoding complex workflows from decades of manual observation into mere milliseconds. When you use a system that treats these corrections as a persistent memory store, a single articulated rejection becomes a durable guardrail. It's no longer a one-time fix, it's an update to the organization's collective intelligence. But this only works if the system remembers. When your team constantly switches between different chat interfaces and isolated local environments, every new session wipes the slate clean. Without a centralized memory system to capture these rejections, you are actively choosing to erase your organization's compounding intelligence at the end of every workday. The organizations that pull ahead will be the very ones that build a compounding, centralized database of scaled human taste. When you systematically capture corrections your experts make, you ensure your AI never makes the exact same logical error twice. To get there, employees must change their behavior. They need to stop quietly fixing AI formatting errors themselves to save a few minutes. Instead, they must rigorously articulate their constraints, explain why the output failed, and feed those rejections directly back into your centralized system. In a world where infinite generation is completely free, the future belongs entirely to the professionals who know exactly how to say no.